The wobbly fence and the squirrel gang. The dilapidated fence appeared far more precarious up close. Lily trailed her fingers along the weathered boards, the entire edifice shuddering at her merest touch. It was less a boundary and more a disorderly assembly of pickets poised to collapse en masse. Squinting, she re-envisioned the scene. Squirrels, undoubtedly. A veritable cabal of them, plotting mischief under the ancient oak. She conjured images of minuscule tools and hammers, a persistent, muted tapping echoing in the stillness of the night as they methodically undermined her property. A chill prickled her skin, a blend of autumn crispness, and the sheer oddity of her imaginings. Still, the fence demanded attention, urgent attention. Dave. He represented the only practical solution. She'd often watched him, a figure of constant industry in his yard, invariably humming some amiable tune, his hands strong from labor. He seemed adept at mending, well, everything. Yet, the prospect of asking him ignited a flare of apprehension. He was practically a stranger. What if he was preoccupied? What if she seemed intrusive? What if he scoffed at her preposterous theory? Lily worried her lip, pacing before the ramshackle barrier. Perhaps she could attempt a repair solo. A hammer lay dormant somewhere, along with a collection of nails perhaps. Though her previous foray into the world of DIY had yielded a listing shelf and an agonizingly throbbing digit. No, self-reliance clearly eluded her grasp. Drawing a steadying breath, she squared her shoulders and headed toward Dave's dwelling. His porch swing issued a rhythmic groan, a welcome sound that briefly soothed her rattled nerves. He sat there meticulously tending to a pair of pruning shears, his brow furrowed in deep thought. Dave, she ventured, her voice a mere thread of sound. He glanced up, his eyes creasing charmingly as he smiled. Lily. Hello there. What can I do for you? She shuffled, suddenly captivated by the intricate geometry of the porch tiles. It's about the fence, the one bisecting our properties. He inclined his head, his face unreadable, awaiting elaboration. It's seen better days, she began, gesturing vaguely toward the offending structure. Truth be told, it's on the verge of disintegration. And I was wondering, if you had the time, and it wasn't too much trouble, if you might possibly cast an eye upon it. The final phrase burst forth, a torrent of words, a desperate entreaty. I honestly suspect squirrels. They're the masterminds behind this, I'm convinced. The words escaped before she could censor them, and she cringed, anticipating his reaction. A warm chuckle rumbled from Dave, a sound that loosened the knot of tension in her shoulders. Squirrels, eh? They certainly can be quite the mischievous creatures. He paused, deliberating. Tell you what, how about I mosey on over and take a look-see? I can't guarantee a solo repair job, but 2 brains are better than 1, wouldn't you agree? Lily's features brightened. Really? You would? Absolutely, he affirmed, rising and gently placing the shears on the porch. Give me 5 to fetch my toolbox, and we'll assess the damages. He winked. Perhaps we'll even catch those furry felons red-handed. Hammers, nails, and twinkling eyes. Tomorrow then? Dave had asked, his brow crinkling with a sincerity that made Lily's stomach flip. Yes, please, she'd managed, her voice a little breathy. The next morning dawned bright, the sun painting long shadows across Lily's overgrown garden. She'd spent the early hours tidying, pulling weeds, and generally trying to look busy, though she mostly just rearranged pots and chewed on her thumbnail, a nervous habit she hadn't broken since childhood. The fence, or rather the gaping hole in it, seemed to mock her efforts, a constant reminder of her incompetence. She heard the familiar rumble of Dave's truck, a sound that oddly calmed her frayed nerves. He parked neatly at the curb, grabbed a worn toolbox from the back, and sauntered up the path, a smile already playing on his lips. He wore a faded blue work shirt, its sleeves rolled up to reveal forearms tanned by the sun. He looked capable. Morning, Lily. Ready to wage war on this fence, he boomed, his voice a pleasant rumble. Lily managed a weak smile, her cheeks flushing. Ready as I'll ever be. Dave chuckled, the sound warm and genuine. Don't you worry, we'll have this patched up in no time. He surveyed the damage, his eyes crinkling at the corners as he assessed the situation. He touched the broken boards, the weathered wood groaning under his gentle pressure. Looks like we need a few new posts, some fresh planks, and a whole lotta elbow grease, he declared, his tone surprisingly cheerful considering the state of disrepair. He opened his toolbox, the metallic tang of tools filling the air. Hammers, nails, a handsaw, a symphony of implements laid out with practiced precision. Lily watched him, mesmerized by his methodical movements. He handled each tool with a familiarity that spoke of years of experience. There was a quiet confidence in his actions, a sense of purpose that was strangely comforting. He caught her gaze and winked, his eyes twinkling in the morning sun. All right, Lily, you ready to learn a thing or two about fence wrangling? He asked, his smile infectious. Lily, who had been feeling overwhelmed and utterly inadequate just moments before, felt a surge of relief wash over her. This wasn't just about fixing a fence, it was about Dave's willingness to share his knowledge, his time, his expertise. It was about his kindness. And in that moment, watching him rummage through his toolbox, his eyes sparkling with enthusiasm, she felt a flicker of something else entirely, something warm and unfamiliar blooming in her chest. Learning to hammer, and feeling butterflies. All right, Dave said, his voice a low rumble that seemed to vibrate through the very air, the trick is all in the wrist. Not too much force, let the hammer do the work. He positioned a nail against a warped plank of cedar, his large hand engulfing hers as he guided the hammer. The metal head felt surprisingly heavy in Lily's grasp. He demonstrated a smooth, rhythmic tap-tap-tap driving the nail straight. See? No wild swings. Controlled. He stepped back, releasing her hand. Lily's palm tingled. The casual contact had sent a jolt through her, a feeling so unexpected it made her clumsy. She fumbled with another nail, nearly dropping it. Easy for you to say, she mumbled, her cheeks already warming. You've probably hammered a million nails. Dave chuckled, a warm, genuine sound. Not quite a million. But enough to know a bent nail when I see one. He pointed to the small box filled with gleaming, new nails. Don't be afraid to start over. We all bend a few. Lily took a deep breath and positioned the nail. She tried to mimic Dave's movements, wrist loose, eyes focused. The first strike went sideways, the nail bending immediately. She groaned. Like I said, Dave reminded her gently. Don't force it. Try again. She tried again. And again. Each failed attempt only amplified the nervous flutter in her stomach. It wasn't just the hammering, it was Dave standing so close, the scent of sawdust and his subtle aftershave filling her senses. The rhythmic thud of his hammer from the other side of the fence was a constant, distracting percussion. Finally, after what felt like an eternity, she managed to sink a nail straight. Not perfectly straight but straight enough. A small thrill surged through her. There you go. Dave said, his eyes crinkling at the corners as he smiled. See? You're a natural. Hardly, Lily said, but she couldn't suppress the grin spreading across her face. She reached for another nail, determined to prove him right. The afternoon sun warmed her back, the breeze rustled through the leaves of the oak tree, and the rhythmic sounds of hammering filled the air. It should have been peaceful, relaxing. But inside, a chaotic symphony was playing, all because of the man beside her. She glanced sideways, catching his eye. He winked. The hammer slipped in her sweaty palm, clattering to the ground. Rainy day cocoa and shared dreams. A fat drop of rain splattered on Lily's nose. She blinked, surprised. Another landed on the weathered fence post, darkening the wood. Looks like we're going to get wet, she said, more to herself than Dave. He glanced at the sky, now a bruised purple. That escalated quickly. The wind picked up, rustling the leaves in the ancient oak tree, at the edge of her property. Within seconds, the heavens opened. Race you to the house. Lily shouted, already sprinting toward the back door. She fumbled with the handle, finally yanking it open and stumbling inside, breathless. Dave followed close behind, shaking the rain from his hair like a golden retriever. "Made it," he said, grinning, drops of water clinging to his eyelashes. Lily laughed, a genuine, unreserved sound that warmed the small kitchen. "Barely." She grabbed 2 towels from a drawer. "Here. Before you catch your death." The kitchen, usually bathed in sunlight, was now a cozy haven against the storm raging outside. The rhythmic drumming of rain on the roof created a comforting backdrop. "Hot cocoa?" Lily suggested, already reaching for the kettle. "Sounds perfect," Dave said, leaning against the counter, watching her. Lily busied herself with the familiar task, measuring cocoa powder, sugar, and milk into a saucepan. The scent of chocolate filled the air, a comforting aroma that chased away the lingering chill. "So," she said, stirring the mixture, "what did you do before fences?" Dave chuckled. "Before fences? Well, let's see. I was a carpenter, mostly. Built houses, decks, you name it." "Did you like it?" He hesitated. "It was a job. Paid the bills. But I always dreamed of doing something more creative. I used to sketch designs in my spare time." Lily's hand stilled. "You sketch?" she asked, her voice barely a whisper. "Yeah. Mostly landscapes. Nothing fancy." He shrugged, a self-deprecating gesture. "Just a way to unwind." "I paint," Lily confessed, her cheeks flushing. "Watercolors, mostly. Flowers, landscapes, but I'm not very good." "Hey," Dave said softly, his eyes meeting hers. "Don't sell yourself short. Everyone starts somewhere." He paused. "Maybe sometime you could show me your work." The cocoa simmered, the steam fogging the window pane. Lily poured the steaming liquid into 2 mugs, handing one to Dave. "Maybe," she said, her gaze fixed on the swirling chocolate. She took a tentative sip. "So, landscapes, huh? What's your favorite?" "The coast," Dave said, his voice taking on a dreamy quality. "The rugged cliffs, the crashing waves, there's something about the raw power of the ocean that just captivates me." He took a long sip of cocoa. "What about you? What do you like to paint?" "Gardens," Lily said. "Secret gardens, overgrown with vines and bursting with color. Places where you can get lost in your own thoughts." She smiled, a small, shy smile that Dave found utterly captivating. "I want to create worlds on paper." "Worlds worth getting lost in," Dave murmured, his eyes reflecting the warmth of the fire and something else, something Lily couldn't quite decipher. The rain continued to fall, a steady, soothing rhythm that filled the silence between them, a silence that was no longer awkward, but comfortable, filled with unspoken possibilities. Polka music and lingering touches. "That's a catbird," Dave said, pointing towards a thicket of honeysuckle. A flash of gray disappeared into the leaves. "Mimics all sorts of other birds. Clever little things." Lily squinted, trying to catch another glimpse. "I've been trying to identify the birds in my garden for ages. I even bought a guide, but it's all Greek to me." Dave chuckled, a warm sound that seemed to settle in the air. "Takes practice. I've been watching them since I was a boy. My grandpa was a real bird enthusiast. Used to drag me out to the marshes before sunrise." "I wish I had someone to teach me," Lily admitted. "My parents weren't exactly outdoorsy types. More into art galleries and, well, you know." She gestured vaguely, suddenly self-conscious. "Art galleries are good too," Dave said mildly. "Everyone has their passions." He picked up a weathered fence post, examining it critically. "Speaking of passions, I hear you're quite the artist." Lily winced. "I dabble. Mostly landscapes. They never quite come out the way I imagine them." "That's art," Dave said simply. "Trying to capture something fleeting." Besides, even a crooked fence post is beautiful in its own way, wouldn't you say? They moved on to the worst section of the fence, a gaping hole where a tree root had heaved the panels askew. It was a jigsaw puzzle of splintered wood and rusted nails. "This is going to take some doing," Dave said, scratching his chin. He rummaged through his toolbox, pulling out a roll of chicken wire. "We can reinforce it with this. Stronger than it looks." They worked in companionable silence for a while, Dave cutting and shaping the wire, Lily holding the panels in place. The air was thick with the scent of sawdust and damp earth. Lily, never good with measurements, kept cutting the wire too short. "Here, let me show you," Dave said, reaching for the wire cutters. His hand brushed against hers, a fleeting touch that sent a jolt of electricity through her. She looked up, meeting his gaze. His eyes, usually crinkled at the corners with amusement, were serious, almost searching. He guided her hand, his fingers warm against hers as he showed her how to angle the cutters for a clean snip. His touch lingered a moment longer than necessary. Lily's breath caught in her throat. It was just a hand on hers, but it felt like so much more. She fumbled with the wire, her cheeks flushing. "Thanks," she managed to whisper. Dave stepped back, clearing his throat. "No problem. We should probably put on some music. Helps the work go faster." He reached for his portable radio, fiddling with the dial. A burst of polka music filled the air, a lively accordion melody that made Lily smile despite herself. "Polka?" she asked, surprised. "Don't knock it till you try it," Dave said with a grin. "My grandpa used to play the accordion. Taught me a few tunes when I was a kid." "I love polka," Lily blurted out, then immediately regretted it. My grandmother used to listen to it." Dave's smile widened. "See? You're full of surprises, Lily Bloom." They worked on, the polka music a cheerful counterpoint to the rhythmic hammering and sawing. But Lily's mind was elsewhere, replaying the moment Dave's hand had lingered on hers. Was it just a friendly gesture, or something more? The thought, both thrilling and terrifying, echoed in her mind. Maya's teasing and Lily's confusion. The screen door slammed open, a gust of late afternoon air carrying Maya's boisterous laughter into the backyard. "Lily Bloom, I've arrived. And brought snacks. Important things first, obviously." Lily, startled, dropped the paintbrush, splattering a streak of crimson across the unfinished birdhouse Dave had helped her design. "Maya. You're early." She dabbed at the errant paint with a rag, a blush creeping up her neck. Dave straightened from where he was kneeling, hammering a support beam into the new fence. He wiped his brow, a genuine smile spreading across his face. "Well, hello there," Maya said, her eyes twinkling as she took in the scene, Lily covered in paint, Dave flexing his biceps as he lowered the hammer, the half-finished fence bathed in the golden light. "Someone's been busy." She dumped her oversized tote bag on the picnic table and pulled out a bag of chips. "So, fence repair, huh? Seems a little domestic for you, Lils." Lily shot her a warning glance. "Dave's just helping me out. It's neighborly." She knew her explanation sounded weak, even to her own ears. Maya snorted, popping a chip into her mouth. "Neighborly, huh? The way he's looking at you says anything but neighborly." She leaned closer, her voice dropping to a conspiratorial whisper. "Girl, spill. What's going on?" "Nothing's going on." Lily protested, perhaps a little too vehemently. She avoided Dave's gaze, focusing instead on scrubbing the stubborn paint stain. "We're just friends." Dave chuckled, a warm, rumbling sound that sent a shiver down Lily's spine. "Now, Lily, don't go selling yourself short. Friends who build fences together, stay together, right?" He winked and Lily's heart did a little flutter kick. Maya pounced. "Ooh, did you hear that? He's hinting. He's totally hinting. I haven't seen you this flustered since that time you tried to bake a soufflé." "That's because soufflés are the devil's food," Lily muttered, desperate to change the subject. She picked up the birdhouse, turning it over in her hands. "What do you think of the color?" Maya wasn't letting it go. "The color is irrelevant. The real question is, what color are you turning every time Dave looks your way? You're practically glowing." She nudged Lily with her elbow. "Seriously, Lils, he's a silver fox. And those eyes, he looks at you like you're the only wildflower in a field of weeds." Lily felt her cheeks burning. "Stop it, Maya. You're embarrassing me." But a tiny seed of doubt, or perhaps hope, had been planted. Was she really that obvious? Was there something between her and Dave that went beyond friendship? The thought both terrified and thrilled her. Okay, I'll stop teasing," Maya relented, seeing Lily's genuine discomfort. "But seriously, keep me updated. This is way more exciting than anything happening in my life right now." She grabbed another handful of chips, her eyes still dancing with mischief. "Besides, I need to know if I should start planning the wedding." Lily threw a crumpled rag at her. "Get out of here," she laughed, but the sound was laced with a nervous energy she couldn't quite suppress. She glanced at Dave, who was watching them with an amused expression. He caught her eye and winked again. Confusion swirled within her, a mixture of anxiety and a strange, unfamiliar warmth. Maybe Maya was right. Maybe, just maybe, this wasn't just about a fence after all. Building fences, building walls. Each hammer blow resonated through the small house, a percussive intrusion that set Lily's teeth on edge. She burrowed deeper into the armchair's worn embrace, attempting to lose herself in the well-thumbed pages of a novel. Outside, Dave labored on, each strike driving home not just a nail, but another brick in the invisible barrier between them. It was the heat, she reasoned. The oppressive summer sun rendered outdoor labor a torment. Or perhaps the throbbing reminder of the splinter she'd acquired weeding yesterday, a miniature agony still pulsing beneath her nail. Anything to avoid the truth, a blossoming fear. A wild flutter in her chest each time he smiled. The electric tingle when their hands brushed transferring a tool. The unnerving question of where it might lead. Another thud. The fence neared completion. Visible from the window, a crisp line of treated lumber demarcated her property from the wild field beyond. Intended as a promise of security, a sense of enclosure, it only intensified her feelings of being caged. The screen door whined open, snagging her breath in her throat. "Lily?" Dave's voice carried a soft hesitancy. "You okay in there? You've been holed up all day." "Just getting lost in a story," she mumbled, avoiding his gaze. "It's scorching out there, isn't it?" Silence hung thick. She felt his presence in the doorway, a palpable weight. "Yeah, it is," he conceded finally. "Could use a second pair of hands with the gate, though. It's a bear to wrangle alone." "Oh," she squeaked, the syllable amplified by nerves. "I think I tweaked something yesterday, puttering in the garden. My back's a bit tender." A flimsy fabrication, instantly regretted, yet already uttered. Dave sighed, a quiet exhalation, barely audible. "Right," he replied, his voice devoid of inflection. "I'll manage." He retreated, his shoulders losing some of their squareness as he turned back to the fence. Lily watched through the window, conscience twisting in her gut. The afternoon sun stretched his shadow long across the yard, making him appear diminished, more isolated than she'd ever witnessed. He battled the gate for what felt like an eternity, the wood protesting with loud groans. At last, he wrestled it into place, the latch clicking shut with a definitive sound that amplified the ensuing quiet. He paused, back still to the house, before gathering his tools with a deliberate slowness. He didn't spare a backward glance. As the sun dipped towards the horizon, igniting the sky in a blaze of fiery hues, Lily remained rooted in her armchair, the novel lying untouched in her lap. The fence was nearly done. But the wall between them scaled new heights. Sunflowers and a confession. The knock on the door was gentle, almost hesitant. Lily, halfway through sketching a particularly stubborn bloom from her overgrown rose bush, nearly jumped out of her skin. She hadn't been expecting anyone. Wiping charcoal dust onto her already smudged apron, she hurried to answer it. Dave stood on the porch, a splash of vibrant yellow against the weathered gray of his truck parked in the drive. He held a bouquet of sunflowers, their faces tilted towards the late afternoon sun, almost as if they were craning their necks to get a better look at her. "These reminded me of your garden," he said, his voice a low rumble that sent a shiver down her spine. "Thought you might like them." Lily felt her cheeks flush. Sunflowers. Bold, unapologetically bright, and completely unexpected. She took the flowers, their rough stalks tickling her fingers. "Dave, they're beautiful." "Thank you." She inhaled their earthy scent, a grounding contrast to the swirling thoughts in her head. He'd remembered she liked sunflowers. More than that, he'd gone out and gotten them for her. She stepped aside, gesturing him in. "Come in, I was just drawing." She hoped he wouldn't ask to see it. The rose sketch was a mess of false starts and frustrated erasures. He followed her into the kitchen, the sunflowers filling the small space with their sunny presence. Lily found a vase, filled it with water, and arranged the blooms with more care than she usually devoted to such things. She could feel Dave watching her, his gaze warm and steady. "So," she said, turning to face him, trying to sound casual, "fence progress." Dave leaned against the counter, crossing his arms. He looked at her, really looked at her, his eyes crinkling at the corners. "Truth be told, Lily," he said, his voice softer now, "I haven't been thinking much about the fence lately." Her heart skipped a beat. "Oh?" He pushed himself off the counter and took a step closer. The air crackled between them, thick with unspoken words. "I enjoy your company," he confessed, his gaze unwavering. "More than fixing fences, more than, well, more than I've enjoyed anything in a long time." He paused as if gathering his courage. "There's a connection, Lily. I feel it, and I think you do too." Lily's breath caught in her throat. She hadn't imagined he felt it too. The unspoken glances, the lingering touches, the easy laughter, she'd dismissed them as wishful thinking. But here he was, standing in her kitchen, sunflowers casting dappled light across his face, admitting the very thing she'd been too afraid to acknowledge. She swallowed hard, her voice barely a whisper. I do." The admission felt like a weight lifted, a secret finally spoken aloud. The relief was almost overwhelming. Dave smiled, a genuine, unguarded smile that reached his eyes. "Good," he said, and for the first time since he'd arrived, Lily felt truly calm. The sunflowers seemed to nod in agreement, their bright faces reflecting the shared warmth in the room. "Birdwatching and new beginnings." "Birdwatching?" Lily echoed, a half-eaten blueberry muffin suspended in midair. "I haven't been birdwatching since I was, like, 10. And even then, it mostly involved chasing pigeons." Dave chuckled, the sound rumbling pleasantly in his chest. "Well, hopefully we can find something a little more exotic than pigeons. The park has a surprisingly diverse bird population." He gestured towards the window with his coffee mug. "Besides, it's a beautiful day. Perfect for exploring." The sun streamed into Lily's kitchen, painting the worn countertops in a golden light. The air felt lighter, fresher, than it had in weeks. "Okay," she said, a hesitant smile playing on her lips. "Okay, birdwatching it is. When? How about tomorrow morning? Early, before it gets too crowded." A thrill, both exciting and slightly terrifying, shot through Lily. A date. This was definitely a date. She swallowed, trying to appear nonchalant. "Sounds lovely." The next morning dawned crisp and clear. Lily, armed with her ancient binoculars and a borrowed bird identification book from Dave, met him at the park entrance. He was wearing a worn denim jacket and a pair of comfortable-looking hiking boots. He looked good. "Ready for an adventure?" he asked, his eyes crinkling at the corners. Lily adjusted the strap of her bag. "As I'll ever be." They walked along a winding path, the air filled with the chirping of unseen birds. Dave pointed out a robin perched on a branch, its red breast puffed out proudly. He showed her how to focus her binoculars, patiently guiding her until the image sharpened. Lily fumbled with the dials, feeling a blush creep up her neck. She was so clumsy sometimes. There, he said softly, his hand brushing against hers as he adjusted the focus. See? It was a cardinal, vibrant against the green foliage. Lily gasped. She'd seen cardinals before, of course, but never like this, so close and so clear. They continued walking, the silence between them comfortable and companionable. Lily found herself relaxing, her initial nervousness fading. She told him about her painting, about her doubts and insecurities, about the way colors sometimes seemed to sing to her. He listened attentively, his gaze never wavering. At one point, they stopped by a small pond. Dave pointed out a pair of mallards gliding gracefully across the water. Lily tried to sketch them in her notebook, but the angle was awkward, and her drawing looked stiff and lifeless. Don't worry about making it perfect, Dave said, noticing her frustration. Just capture the feeling, the essence of what you see. His words resonated with her. It wasn't about perfection, it was about capturing the moment, the feeling, the connection. Maybe that applied to more than just art. As they walked back towards the park entrance, the sun began to dip below the horizon, casting long shadows across the path. Lily felt a sense of contentment she hadn't experienced in a long time. The wobbly fence was fixed, and maybe, just maybe, something within her was too. The possibilities stretched before her, vast and unknown, like the sky above. And for the first time in a long time, she wasn't afraid.